Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I am Madcapper and this is another video on Raid Shadow Legends and another in our series of I built them so you don't have to. Well, a couple videos ago I did a spotlight, I guess, or one of these videos on Lich, and there were a number of you at least that said, you know what, he is not the worst champion in Raid Shadow Legends. In fact, one person even called it out as clickbait, which I'm actually kind of proud of. It's my first clickbait title. I'm really I'm excited about it. I always thought that my first was War Chief, which was really just a meme to poke fun at Stu Gaming, but apparently this is it. This is the moment when you know you're on your way in YouTube, is when you have a true clickbait title. So I'm so happy and proud, and I called my mom this morning to let her know, and she said, "What's Twitch? What's YouTube?" So that was weird, but I'm really excited. Anyway, I guess sidetrack. The point is, I looked at some of the other options that you guys were putting out there to say, hey, you know what? This is not, that Lich is bad. Okay, you got us. But he has a A3 with some turn meter reduction. He's usable in Fire Knight early on, and while I still think he's hot trash, I'm willing to keep an open mind. So I looked for Tashada, didn't have her. Looked for Woad Painted, didn't have her. But there's a third name. A third name that you guys all mentioned on Twitch and on YouTube in the comments and in Discord that said, no, this is the worst champion. So I call challenge accepted. And this video is for Exemplar. Exemplar is a high elf epic attack-based champion of Void Affinity. And her total stats right now are HP at 13,545, attack of 1509, 892 defense. I gotta tell you, the attack, pretty good. It's on the upper end, actually, for epic attack-based champions. Defense, it's a little underwhelming, but it's not bad. Also, considering it's an epic champion, an attack-based champion. Speed, though, 94, a little bit scary. I hate having that below. 97 is kind of that threshold where I really start not enjoying building them out and still trying to get their speeds where I need them to be. And then you've got 15% crit rate, 6% crit damage, and resist at 30. And her kit, this is the telltale. So her kit actually mostly reads pretty well, but it's how it actually works. This is a champion that's got single target hits. We'll talk about it in a second, but really it comes down to damage when you have these sort of champions. I said it with Drang, I say it with Lich. You need to be able to do damage with your abilities if you're going to have single target abilities, and you need to have that secondary mechanic. Now, she has a secondary mechanic, but we'll see if she does damage. That's going to be the telltale sign. And also, a crit rate aura, awful. Arena, well, I mean, crit rate aura is actually situationally very amazing. It can help you get through dungeons in the early game. It can help you get through specific content. For example, because I have Bet Alcazar now, I actually run Spider in a very quick fashion if I want to just speed run it because of the crit rate aura. But in the arena, I think you'd have to either be a mad genius, like a boomer style mad genius, to be able to use a crit rate aura in an end game comp, or you're just so early game that you don't have any other aura to use, and maybe you've already used your starting champion for the clan boss, and so you're kind of stuck. I don't know. I'm not a big fan. However, the kit itself reads well. Don't know if it performs well, but it reads well. This is attacks one enemy, has a 75% chance of placing a freeze debuff for one turn, and a block cooldown skills for 2 turns. Now keep in mind, these should both land unless you get unlucky. So you have a freeze and a block cooldowns. Effectively, it means you've got a 1-turn freeze and then followed by a 1-turn block cooldown. Of course, you can extend those with a mastery. Keep that in mind. This is a 5-turn, bookable to a 4-turn, and bookable to a 100% chance. Her A2 is attack 3 times at random. I'll say it again, not a fan of random attacks, but if it is, again, has to hit hard. This has to hit hard. If it hits weak and it's 3 random, it's not going to be good enough. But it does have a weaken debuff that's bookable up to 75% chance on a 2-turn cooldown. If this thing's a good ability, this is an amazing champion that I don't know why we've been sleeping on. 2-turn ability that has a chance to hit 3 different times, or 1 target really hard 3 times. The fact that it's 3 times means you can use Giant Slayer, those sort of things. I really like the mechanic of this if it does damage. And then you have her A1, which attacks 1 enemy 2 times, places an extra hit if this attack is critical. Attack-based champion, lots of attack, even has a crit rate aura. Yeah, you're going to have a crit attack. So basically, you've got a 3-hit A1. this is a sneaky good kit. It reads really well. She looks like an old model. Not a real fan of it. I really wish they'd update some of these older skins. Sell a skins, Plarium. I will pay money to reskin champions like they do in every other game. The cosmetic changes are amazing, and you can have it not change a single thing in the game. Just the look of a champion, and people will spend money. Look how much they spent for the 100k avatars in the 3v3. People are actually playing 3v3 arena for the avatar. Come on. Anyway, I digress. Let's get in. We're gonna take her into some. Oh, first we're gonna show her my build, and then we'll take her into some dungeons, campaign, that sort of thing, and see if she can perform as I hope she can perform, or whether or not you are all right. She's the worst champion in Raid Shadow Legends. So here is how I've decided to equip Exemplar. I've given her a reasonable amount of speed. Again, that 94 is just a glaring, yelling in my face. This is actually pretty good gear. It's not loner gear. I didn't take it from anyone, but I actually am pretty happy with the overall build here. We've got a 246 accuracy. She is an attack-based champion, so this is kind of a bonus, and I might even consider, if she only had one ability or if she hits really hard, I might even consider just foregoing that and going with the pure damage. But because that freeze and lock cooldowns could be so critical in the arena, we've got that. And I will also, you may have noticed, I did put her in immunity gear. I happen to have some really good immunity gear. It's going to be for a future attack champion that I decide to put in immunity gear. But in the meantime, I thought it would work really well for Exemplar, and sure enough, 4k attack. She's even got 2k defense, so some good survivability. A little light on the health, but 206 speed. That's going to be critical for campaign. We'll show that in a minute. And crit rate of 102, 250 crit damage. So overall, pretty good build, I'd say. I'm okay with it. And, you know, we'll obviously see what it does. As far as masteries, we've gone with Helm Smasher. That's the big thing. So we're going with damage. I like that extra 8% first time she hits an enemy. I like the Helm Smasher because we can get multiple procs on that A1, on that A2. And over here, we're just getting some extra accuracy to make sure she can land some of those hits at the beginning. Turn meter reduction is always, I think, a must-have. Probably as close to a must-have as you can have, especially for an arena champion, if we're going to take her into the arena. The debuff extension, I'm not really a fan of any of these. You want her to be tuned, so this doesn't really, she's not going to be the last one standing. So I could either make sure that her A2 has a better chance of landing, or just a chance of extending. And I like that, the thought of that, you know, the freeze can't be, but the lock cooldowns can. So I like the thought of having a 3-turn, you know, even if it's a 30% chance, having that 3-turn lock cooldown skill. So we decided to go that way with her on the masteries. Even though I'm going to be using her arena, large argument to be made that you could use her in Clan Boss with Giant Slayer as an alternate attack in the early game. If you don't have a good setup, she could be a stand-in, a filler, kind of like Elhain is. If you start with Elhain, she's a pretty good fill-in. But also, even in dungeons, that might be the better option, because you know, you put her up against a dragon and she's proccing multiple of those with her 2-turn A2, A1, a 2-turn A2. That's a lot of possibilities of proccing that. So put that in your pocket as a possibility. Not a big fan of Shield Breaker, but I thought the comp that I'll probably be testing her in will not have a strip champion, depending on whereabouts I am in the arena. If I'm low enough, we can usually take out Arbiter, keep Lysandra's lead, and still get the speed lead. But I just want to make sure that in case I do have to go up against shield champs, and really the problem with this with attack-based champions is if she has 50% HP or less, she probably has 0, and she's not going to hit too hard with 0. So that was my kind of mindset with this. Probably this is the better option, but I kind of talked myself somehow into Shield Breaker. So that's how I ever built out. Now let's take her into a couple of different dungeons campaigns, see what you can do. We'll finish up in the arena, and I'll meet you back at the Bastion. 12-3 typical stage. I would take her to 12-6 if she were Force Affinity, just because of the affinity system. She's Void, it's not going to be a problem, and we'll take her in here. She's 206 speed. That means she's going to get 2 turns. I know that her A3 is a single hit, so that we want to make that. There we go. Boom. She happened to hit all 3 of them with her A2, and then boom. Right. You got to remember, it's a 2-turn. I have her fully booked, so it's a 2-turn A2, which means she's going to loop around to that A2 every time. And now, this was a pretty good run. I've run this probably 6 times in total testing it, and this was 2 out of the 6 times was 11 second. The rest of them were 15 because on one of the 3 rounds, her 3 random are one of them hits the same person twice. All right. So those of you who watch my videos know that a lot of the times, especially of late, I like bringing them into the Dragon Dungeon. All of you run Dragon Dungeon. You know what your champs do. So why don't we just do some comparisons? So what we have here is we have a couple of other champions that you've seen videos. I think everyone knows Rotos. We have a debuffer. Then we have Drang, Alika, and Exemplar. And that's just going to give us a kind of a range of where she is. Especially I like bringing Drang in here. Because he has a multi-hit, a random, 3 times random, and a single target. A 3 and a single target, obviously a 1. So we can kind of, these two are going to be a good comparison to see. And I expect Void Affinity, I expect her to be hitting the same or better than Drang. Because Drang, honestly, is A1 loved, is A2 and is A3 left a little bit to be desired with me. Alika, you know, I've fallen in love with her. Despite the books. I mean, I've already spent them, so I guess I can't get them back anyway. But she hits really hard. And of course, Rotos, kind of one of the de facto standards for how much damage you can do on a single target. So let's bring him in. We'll run a couple tests. Obviously, Rotos doesn't have an AoE, so he's not going to have any anything in the game for that. Oh, perfect. There we go. So let's start here. So her single target's actually her AoE, or sorry, her A3. So she's going to. Should we do the text one? I mean, do we want to do? Let's do the AoE first. So it's going to be her A3, and you see the damages. You see 45 to 55,000. That's probably Helm Smasher proccing for the difference, but 45 to 55 and all targets. When we do her AoE, which is this one here, it's going to be 3 times at random. So let's make sure we're up there. Especially a Bombardier. That's kind of the one I've been hitting. 20, 19, 22, 20. So, yeah, wow. That's not huge. We'll compare afterwards. We'll look back and we'll see what the total damage is, and we'll do Talons, which is his A3, which is that 3 times at random. See what that one does. 26, 26. Yeah, it's even higher. And he doesn't have an AoE, so we'll just hit like that. So yeah, honestly, a little bit disappointed with the A2. So she did 65,000 damage on on a 3-hit random. And he did 79,000. Obviously a lot more. And of course Alika, because she's hitting everyone, 259,000. All epics. I mean, I kind of expected more from Exemplar, to be perfectly honest with you. But, okay, so that's just the one. Let's just try this again. I guess I should show really quickly. So I didn't change gear. These are the gear I bring them into Faction Wars with, just so we're all aware. 4,500 attack. 217 crit damage, so much lower crit damage than her, but much higher, well, considerably higher anyway, at least attack. So I think it evens out. The rest of the stats don't really matter. Obviously, HP is very similar. So he's actually, I would argue, because of the crit damage, maybe he's a little bit better built because of that 4,500 attack, but that much? I don't know. He did a good, 20% more damage. I don't know. Okay. We'll reserve judgment to see what's going on with the third. Alika, her stats, she's got 4,400 with 221 crit damage. Very similar to Drang, actually. The attacks are very similar. Crit damage. I think there's some pretty good deviation there. A little bit more accuracy. Again, this is what I use in Faction Wars. I didn't change their gear at all for this event for these two. Just so when we do this test, Rotos in there, 229 crit damage, 100% at 5,500. Obviously, I'm using him a lot more in Arena. So while his crit damage is actually lower than I want it to be, still we're doing pretty good. And I think he's in immunity gear too, isn't he? So yeah. So those are the champions. Let's bring them again. Let's find out what they do in their single attacks, and then we'll do it one more time with their A1s. All right, so boom, there goes the Venus, and good. The Bombardier is what I like. It's a pretty consistent number. He's an attack-based champion. He's got, you can check what his defined defense is, so you kind of have an idea. So this is the attack one enemy, and she hits hard. We know that's 113,000. She's done up to 130 with that, with a Helm Smasher proc. She's ignoring 50% defense, so pretty good. I don't expect her A1 to hit that hard, but I do want to see 80k would be good. So attacks when enemy has a 75 plus the freeze and the block cooldown. So maybe a little bit less, maybe 70k. We'll attack him so we have a chance to see how everything goes. 63, but she did get a 1-turn freeze, 2-turn lockdown. Like we said, the first turn will be freeze, and then the second turn will be lockdown because obviously freeze by nature does lock him down. It was a little weird that they put that on an ability. And then we've got his one enemy attack, which is a 2-time, and he's gonna hit. Well, shoot, he's got so little health. We'll hit the Horden. I think that's pretty similar. 30, 60, 65,000. And I think Horden's got a little bit more defense than Bombardier. So, I mean, I don't know what to call that. And that's not really fair, but we'll do his for reference. Obviously, 97. That's actually a little low, if anything. Here, we'll put him up against Horden too. 132,000. Obviously, that's your reference. At 5,500 attack, he should be hitting that hard, but just so we know what kind of the gold standard is of attack on single target. All right, so 63,000 total damage, 67. So very similar numbers. He was hitting Horden, and I believe Horden has a little bit more defense, so that might be a little even more icky. Icky. I don't know if that's my official term. Obviously, you see Alika, 113,000. Rodos is showing less than he actually hit because he hit them for harder than they had health. So, but like even here, Venus with her AoE, which is just a debuff, did 51,000. So for 67 and 63, I don't know. I'm a little bit. Let's do this one more time. This time it's going to be their A1s. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by it. But let's see her A1. Now, this is one where it's going to be hit or miss. She should hit the most if she gets the proc, if she gets the second attack proc. So she didn't. So 60k, she can hit twice. So she can hit 120, but it's only a 50-50. She's got 3 hits on hers, but they're guaranteed. 20, pretty much 21 each time. So 63-ish thousand. I mean, guaranteed 60 versus guaranteed 60 plus the chance for 60 more. I guess the big win is that this is 100% 3-prong, so you can have 3 Helm Smashers, you can have 3 Giant Slayers is an advantage, but I would take the chance to hit for 120. And then Drang should hit pretty hard. Are they gonna live? 54,000 on his A1. That ignores some defense. So honestly, a little underwhelming too. I thought he was going to hit closer to what Alika did. And then of course Rodos on his 49. So actually everyone's around the same. I think Alika kind of performs the best on her A1. Underwhelmed with that damage. Really worried about that damage. I mean, she hit more than Drang. She hit just barely more than Alika. But honestly, Alika had a 50% chance to double her score here. So from that perspective, gosh, yikes. So okay, this first battle is kind of what I envision here, and so you're coming into a situation, you need to lock him out. You can't necessarily kill him in one shot, but you need to lock him out. There's actually 2 champions, honestly, that you would like to lock out. You have a nice buff strip, but let's lock him out. Bam. He's now dealt with, and now you can deal with her. Actually, I did that the wrong way. Apologies. But this will actually see what kind of survivability she has. I was supposed to obviously take her out. We'll do that. So there, and now he's still got a 1 turn, right? I mean, let's not be silly here. Okay, her A2. That A2 is just so underwhelming. Okay, we'll take him out. He's the biggest threat. She's gonna hit hard. She killed her, but honestly, it's irrelevant at this point. So yeah, I mean, I get, like, from that perspective, I think this was harder than it needed to be. I think if I just brought in a stronger team, but that's not the point of these videos. I need to start thinking more like how the purpose of this. Okay, so here's a team that would make sense. Now I have 3 pieces of immunity here, but let's pretend for a second I don't. And what the problem is that Chris, when you attack him with an AoE, is going to put an attack down and a defense down on your champion. So if you don't finish the team off, and if you look at this team, it's a reasonable to say I might not finish them off even with a good nuke. She got a lot of health. He's got a lot of health. Like, this is a pretty well-formed team. So instead, let's go through the single target phase. Now we're going to lock her out. Good. We got the lock cooldown. So we have 2 turns to kill her now. And now what we do with our Rhodos is we're going to take her out. So that their biggest damage dealer is gone. We got unlucky on the strip. So we're going to go after Madame Saris here. Then we're going to not let Chris go and see how that attack down happens, which is actually not a big deal. I can either strip it here, but I actually don't want to. We're going to do that. We're going to attack here. Now we can throw this on her as well. So now we've transferred buffs. It's a great underrated ability by Lysandra. And now we can finish her off. Now the team's down to Chris. Not exactly. Chris can make trouble, right? He can make trouble, but at least we're past the main part here. We'll get a speed boost here, and we'll be able to start rotating some turns on him. We'll get him some more HP here. All right, we're going to get all 3 on him. So I guess, I mean, I don't know. What else do you say? It kind of makes sense. Like, this team makes sense for what it is. I think it is far. There's more champions than just her you can bring in, but that gives you an idea of how you would go about and attack a team like this using someone like Exemplar. My final thoughts on Exemplar is underwhelming. She suffers from what I think a lot of early champions do. They're underwhelming. There's a clear definition between legendary and epic, and as there should have been, right? But now that they've come up with new mechanic, with interesting new ways of using new mechanics, it's the new champions have breathed life into a lot of them, especially since about in the last year. Those champions really seem to have a lot more variety. Even the epics, like you look at the epics that I'm building right now, these 3 here, some crazy cool toolkits, some great hits, strong hit A1s, those sort of things. Whereas here, it's just kind of basic. And I hate the aura. This here, I love the skill, and even though it's a single target, I love it. You saw in that second arena battle, that's kind of a scenario where we'd use it. But at the end of the day, it just didn't hit a lot. And what happens if she doesn't land the block cooldown, or what happens if if there's 2 rezzers and we have to take care of them? We need more damage out of her kit to make that happen. This here, the weekend, I don't know. Maybe this would be a little bit more impactful if it was a defense down or an attack down. A weekend is nice to have, but it's just a nice to have, right? If you look at most teams in arena battles, they are not relying on weekend to do the damage they need. They're relying on defense down and just high insane attack and crit modifiers on their champions. So because it's weekend, keep it weakened, but needs to hit harder. And this here, I'm okay with this. It's a 3 hit. You can put Giant Slayer on it to get that extra damage in dungeons. Even in the arena, if it procs, it's still going to give you an extra, 10,000 or whatever the number is it's going to do. So it's still pretty good. Helm Smasher, 3 chances to proc Helm Smasher. So I'm okay with that. So, but overall, my problem is this, and this is why probably a lot of people think of her as the worst. She isn't the worst. She's far from it. But there are so many champions that fit into this slot, this single target nuker, and I've said it 100 times. I've built 10 of them. And out of those 10 nuking champions, Durang included, who I shat on pretty heavily, I would probably pick her last. Of all the champions, nuking champions that I've built, with the I built them so you don't have to, I think I would choose her last. I think of everyone. I think Phoenix has a great A2 and an A1 that blocks revive. Excruciator has a veil, and absolutely when she's under veil hits for numbers that are obscene, right? You've got Durang, who's got a stun, and he's got hits better. His A1 ignores defense, although still, let's not forget, very underwhelming A1. So overall, I just think that she's kind of no matter what you're trying to use her for, there's someone better, is what it comes down to. No matter where you think you can slot her into the game, there are so many champions that can do that, and they do at least one part of that better. And that's what you need when you're dealing with kind of B tier champions. You need them to at least specialize in something that you need them for. And this, you need her for that A3 and damage. And that A3 is nice, but the damage isn't. So why not bring someone like Phoenix, who on his A2 has an AoE that can either block buffs or lock cooldowns. And so it does it better, and has the rest of his toolkit's amazing too. I'm underwhelmed. I wouldn't recommend her. I would throw her in the vault. How I would change her is quite simple. She needs to have better multipliers. Make people early game pulling Exemplar from a void shard feel like they got something. And maybe she doesn't last to the end game. Not every champion can, but maybe she can do really well into the mid game. And it's just straight up. I would change these two abilities, and here's what I think. The one enemy should have a weaken, places a weaken first, then hits, and it should hit very hard. This should be able to do 30% more damage than it does, and this 3 times at random should have the lock cooldown or freeze. I think that would be an amazing, right? 3 times at random, you're either going to lock 3, maybe one opponent gets frozen and locked down, maybe 2 get a lockdown and 1 get a freeze, right? Do that kind of mechanic. You've done it with other champions, and I think that would, although RNG is not my favorite, at least you know you're stopping them from doing something. Potentially 3 champions. Also, I hate random. I think it should hit 3 separate champions at random, and if there's less than 3, then it chooses randomly which one to hit twice, that sort of thing. I think that would be a better random, because when you're up against 4 or 5 champions and you hit all into one, it may look cool because you hit them, but it doesn't hit that hard. So it's not really doing anything to me except for giving me a weekend, which is meh, right? So you put the freeze block down, cooldown on here. You put the weaken on here, and you make this hit way harder. And the cooldown chance, you put a 70 on this, you can put the 75% chance to weaken. On this, you have the bookable to 100% chance of putting the lock cooldown or freeze. You don't have to put both on each champion you hit. And then I wouldn't change this at all. I'm actually okay with this because there are different mechanics that you can add to a triple hit that work very well for you. And in the Fire Knight, if you needed her to knock down that shield because you didn't have a lure, you're doing some kind of counter or reflect team, I think this would work. She would work perfectly fine in that. And actually, the team that I showed you was about a 50-50. Maybe a little bit more survivability, and I could probably get away with it. Nonetheless, that's what I think. What do you think? I don't think she's the worst. I just don't think you'll use her. Do you think differently? Do you think the same? What do you think? Also, aside from Tashada and Woe Painted, who I currently don't have on, who is the worst epic? This is the challenge I give to all of you out here who made it this far into the video. Who is the worst epic? I'm going to build them so you don't have to, but I want to know who it is. As soon as I get to Shada, as soon as I get Well Painted, I'm going to build them. That's where I got a few in the queue that I've already built out, so we're gonna feature those. But this is the challenge I put out to the community. Give me your list of worst epic 2021. Happy New Year. What's your worst epic? I'm going to build them so you don't have to. Thank you for joining me in the video today. I hope to see you again on the channel. Please, in 2021, be safe, be kind, and we'll see you in the next video.